Hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining today. It's just about noon, so we're gonna just sort of slowly get started here. There might be a few more people rolling in. It is Friday and we're not always super punctual anyways here. But we wanna respect everyone's time. And so we will kind of get things rolling here in just a moment. While a few folks are still joining, I just wanted to go through kind of some house rules for today. We are recording this, so that's the first thing to share. If you don't want to be on screen, please go ahead and put your video off. We totally don't mind that. We will have two little polls that we're going to throw up here in a minute, just of course to gauge how our presentation is working for you and any other information that we can get from you on things you might want to know about in the future. So I promise they're short. The first one's only about 3 questions and the second one is just a little bit longer. We will have a Q&A at the end. So please hold your questions until then. You can certainly put them in the chat. And then also, if you prefer to just hold on to it, you're welcome to do that too. Video on or off is totally your preference. And again, we are recording this, but we do appreciate you putting your video on. If you do have a question that you want to ask, it's just a little nicer to see a face with a question. And then, of course, be muted until you are going to speak. That just helps to cut down on the background noise. So we've got a lot of folks here. I think hopefully just about everybody that we're expecting. So we're gonna slowly get started in just a moment. And what we'll be doing here is kind of going through back and forth between myself and Chess, who's the food safety specialist here at North Shore EVP. So I'm gonna hand it off to her to get us started, and she's gonna move us through the slides. As we get going, I'm gonna put the first poll up here. So we appreciate you popping up your answers onto that one. And again, it's only 3 questions, so shouldn't be too hard. Chess, go for it.
Awesome, thanks, Lisa. So yeah, like Lisa said, really quick few questions in the poll. If you want to add more to any of your answers, feel free to throw it in the chat as well. But we wanted to start off with just some brief introductions for everybody and a little icebreaker. So I'll start and then I'll pass it off to Lisa, and then I'll just call as I see you on my screen. So I'll start. I'm Francesca Scola. I normally just go by Chess though. I'm the food safety specialist at North Shore EVP, and I am in Manoa on Oahu. And my favorite holiday treat is pumpkin pie.
Awesome. I am Lisa Roden. I'm the food safety director for North Shore EVP. I'm tuning in from Kauai on the southwest side in Hanapepe. I think my favorite holiday season treat is probably eggnog.
Awesome. And then the next person I see on my screen is Boo or Bo from PGC.
Yeah, it's both. Hi, yeah, I'm new to PGC and coming to you from Oahu. And yeah, I like pumpkin pie too.
Awesome. Next on my screen is Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy with the Department of Education, out of the Office of Facilities and Operations Department. My favorite holiday food, I guess it'd be pumpkin pie as well.
Awesome. Next I see Winifred.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
From Armstrong Produce. I'm just a buyer, just listening in. And I love pumpkin pie too.
Awesome. Next I see Joey.
Hello, I'm from the Hawaii Produce Safety program down at Department of Agriculture. So kind of just listening in as well. And then my favorite holiday food is pumpkin custard mix pie.
Ooh. That sounds really good. Next, I'll pass it off to Matt Johnson.
Hey, aloha everyone. My name's Matt. I'm with Oahu Fresh. Yeah, work with farmers, helping them get their products to market. My favorite holiday season treat, gravy. Yep, gravy on everything. Good to see everyone. Thanks.
Awesome. Next, I have Kevin.
Aloha, everybody. I'm Kevin Kelly. I'm the president of North Shore EVP, and I am tuning in from Wailua. Hope you enjoy the webinar.
Awesome. Next, Rudy.
So I'm from Puoka Ranch on Molokai. Unfortunately, I'm German, so we don't have Thanksgiving. And I have to wait till Christmas before I can think about holiday. And my favorite treat is Stollen that my grandmother used to do.
Well, I already have my Christmas tree up, so that's okay. Next, I see Lindsay.
My name is Lindsay Rodriguez. I am from the Department of Education Program Administrator for the School Meal Program. And my favorite holiday season treat would be sweet potato pie.
Yum. Next, I see Will.
Aloha, I'm tuning in from the Big Island, and favorite treat, I'm gonna go with mashed potatoes and gravy. And yeah, we're growing over here and interested in food safety, and yeah, things to be concerned about. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, I see Christy, and then we'll go to Scotty.
Hi, I'm Christy Machina. Erin's here with me also. We're outside prepping our worm food for our vermicomposting, but we're on Oahu, Kapalama. And my favorite holiday season treat is pumpkin crunch. You have and Kalei's here too. Kalei Hashimoto's here. Say hi to Kalei.
Hi.
Your holiday treat for Thanksgiving.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
Pecan pie.
Pecan pie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Scotty Wong. I'm the CEO of Ohanahui Ventures, which runs Alaula Farms up in Whitmore Village in Wahiawa on Oahu. And my favorite holiday treat is probably grabbing another slice of prime rib and add the gravy.
Nice. I think the last few people that I see on my screen, Carrie and then Amanda.
Aloha, I'm Carrie from Ke'au, Hawaii Island, and I'm the Western Region Director for the Hawaii Region Director for Western Apiculture and co-owner of Jim and Carrie's Happy Bees. And my favorite season treat is salted Hawaiian honey ice cream.
Okay, saving the best for last, I guess. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Tom. I am the Food Safety Manager at Armstrong Produce. I work with Winnie, and I'm grateful for having Chess and Lisa with this program, and Kevin as well. So thank you. Oh, and I'm in Oahu. My favorite holiday season treat is pumpkin crunch.
Awesome. And then I missed one person, I think, Robert.
Yeah, I'm representing Fresh Point Corporate from over here in California. And then favorite holiday season treat is actually lasagna, being Italian.
Nice. Okay, thanks everybody for sharing. Next, I just want to give a quick overview of kind of how the agenda is going to go today. So we're going to start off, I'll pass it back to Lisa and she'll give us kind of an introduction to GAP and then kind of go over some perceptions, stats, and solutions for food safety in Hawaii. And then I'll take it back and we'll go over kind of our program at a glance, Then we'll get to move on to two special guest speakers that are joining us today for some talk story. We'll go into next steps for folks that are interested in applying for cohort 7 and getting harmonized GAP food safety certified. And then we'll have some time for a Q&A. So I'm going to pass it off to Lisa now to give us an introduction to GAP.
Thanks, Chess. We do have the poll up. I don't see any answers yet. So if you guys cannot see it, please put in the chat and we'll try to troubleshoot that while we're going. I wanted to start off this webinar today talking a little bit about GAP and exactly what that means. It's a term that is used frequently when we talk about on-farm food safety. So specifically, it refers to good agricultural practices. And we can say that a farm has good GAP, good agricultural practices in place when they are implementing food safety practices. When we talk specifically about USDA GAP, we're actually talking about a specific set of audit schemes. USDA brought GAP and GIP, which is good handling practices, on in the early 2000s as a way to help farmers ensure that they have practices in place to combat foodborne illness potential. And so GAP itself really, when you're speaking about it in terms of USDA, it refers to a set of audits. There is regular GAP, which is the longest running one and is one that will be retired in the coming years. And then there's now harmonized GAP, which is the audit system that we work under. Harmonized GAP is synchronous with FSMA. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means later, but essentially it's a very robust audit, a little bit more robust than regular GAP, and it covers the same sorts of compliance measures that FSMA, which is the Food Safety Modernization Act and is a mandatory system, what that covers. There's also some commodity specific GAPs. So you may occasionally have heard of or seen tomato GAP and mushroom GAP. Nonetheless, GAP is a voluntary program. So a farmer does not have to participate in it. It is often, though, required by buyers. So if for a buyer, it provides assurance that the farm is implementing food safety, has food safety practices in place, and even more, that those food safety practices have been audited by a third party, being USDA, and that's where that certification comes in. GroupGAP is a relatively newer program within USDA. It was brought online about 2015, part of a pilot program a few years prior to that to see how it would work. And the objective there for USDA was to provide smaller and mid-sized growers with a way for them to access food safety certification. Many times smaller and mid-sized growers have trouble getting food safety certified because of a lack of resources. And we'll get into that in a bit, but essentially there's some tasks that are required to do when you are trying to get food safety certified. And a lot of times a small farm just doesn't have the resources, either manpower or financially, to do those things. The idea of GroupGAP is that you share resources across the group. So everything from training to technical assistance to audits, those things are shared across the group, and that allows more farmers to have more access to that assistance and to get into those different types of markets that they need that certification for. So we at North Shore EVP looked at GroupGAP as a great fit for Hawaii because we have a lot of small and mid-sized producers, most of whom are not food safety certified. We began working on establishing our own GroupGAP program in 2017. We were successful in having that recognized by USDA in 2019. So we had to create a program and have that audited, and we were successful at that. And in 2022, we actually took our program and merged with a mainland group called Fresh Systems. We had been interacting with this group and a number of other GroupGAP programs across the country for a few years. Really a great group of people, lots of technical expertise there. And this Fresh Systems group manages GroupGAP programs in about 7 states. So what it does for us is it really opens up the door to more opportunities, more technical assistance, and of course, a larger group of farms, which is really useful. And we'll talk about why that's useful and how it works a little bit later. One thing I wanted to do, though, was talk a little bit about the history of food safety in Hawaii. And that's an important part of the discussion because it talks about or speaks to why so few farms in Hawaii have food safety certification. We are certainly at a turning point. I think we're seeing more folks work to obtain this, but in the past, there were a number of perceived barriers to obtaining food safety certification. So I just wanted to kind of touch on those, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing to address them. First thing is cost, and that's a concern for everybody, especially now. There is a cost to food safety certification, implementing sometimes some of the practices, things like that. So that's been historically a concern for farmers and a reason why some of them decided not to pursue it. Some people believe that the workload is too much to take on. Certainly there's a little bit of truth in that, especially for smaller and mid-sized producers who often their operations are 1 or 2 people. And so it's very difficult to find the time to do some of these additional things. There is a perception out there that small farms don't cause food safety outbreaks. We'll talk a little bit more about this one. I disagree with this. I don't think that's the case. I think what really happens is that small farms often don't have the procedures in place to trace back if there is an issue. So there's a belief that they don't cause food safety outbreaks, but we'll talk about why that's probably not the case. And then, of course, the idea that you can't do it alone. And there's some truth to that one for sure. This is a heavy lift, especially at the beginning. So it is difficult, again, with the amount of resources that smaller and mid-sized producers do have available to them. And then there's a perception that it's unnecessary. Depending on your market, if you're simply selling direct to consumer into CSAs or at a farmer's market, in those cases, group GAP or any GAP system may not be necessary. And that perception has sort of bled into assuming that it's not necessary for other markets as well. So all of that has kind of led to, in Hawaii, a very low number of farms actually being certified. And the stats are actually pretty unimpressive. We only have about 30 operations across the state that are certified. They are listed on the Agricultural Marketing Service website, which is part of the USDA pages. 15 of those are harmonized GAP certified and 15 are GAP GIP certified. So you can see the different audit schemes that these operations have been certified under on that site. Of those 15 harmonized GAP certified operations, North Shore EVP is responsible for probably about 60% of those. So we have been very successful over the last couple of years in helping farmers achieve that certification. We are always working with our group of farmers, bringing new farms on every year. And hopefully at the end of the year that they join us, they are achieving certification. In some cases, it can take a little bit longer. This year, we are anticipating that 3 to 4 more farms will be added to that list. And then we've got a couple others in the wings that will probably be added in the springtime. And I just wanted to touch again on the FSMA and harmonized GAP connection. FSMA, Food Safety Modernization Act, it is a federal mandate. So farms of a certain size have to comply with many of the compliance measures in FSMA. Harmonized GAP, part of USDA's GAP program, voluntary. However, the compliance for both of those different protocols are very similar. And so farms who have harmonized GAP certification, they are fully prepared for a FSMA inspection. In fact, in some cases, harmonized GAP is actually a little bit more robust than some of the requirements in FSMA. So if you are a farm that maybe has had contact from an FDA person who's looking to come and inspect your farm for FSMA, having that harmonized GAP certification in hand, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. You really are going to be set to breeze through that inspection pretty well. So I wanted to kind of go back to these perceived barriers and talk a little bit about them because we have had some success in helping folks get certified. And we want to just kind of tell you a little bit about how we do what we do and address those particular barriers. And then Chess is going to talk a little bit about the program specifics. So we mentioned that cost was a concern, and of course it's always a concern, especially here in Hawaii where pricing tends to be higher for things. But for us, we work really hard behind the scenes to make sure that we have the funding to do this work and basically subsidize this for our farmers. There is a cost to our program. We do ask farmers to pay an annual fee, but it is nowhere near the actual cost of the program. And in addition, it's comparable to what farmers are paying on the mainland. So this is one case where we're not necessarily higher because we are here in Hawaii. Also, this year in 2022 and 2023, the USDA is offering reimbursement for food safety practices. If you have certification, there are a number of categories where you can apply for reimbursement and recoup your costs. So this is a great opportunity to take advantage of getting certified because there is this program in place. It is in place currently, will be in place for next year as well. Workload, that's always a concern. How much work does it take to get this done? What we have found over the years is that there are some efficiencies that can be realized. One of them, certainly using technology. For example, one of the things that farmers apparently don't like to do very much is keep paper records, and I totally get it. We've been looking for a long time for a way around that, and we, in the last couple of years, have been utilizing a digital record keeping app called Heavy Connect. And so that really helps us quite a bit, helps the farmers even more to keep those records easily. And Chess will talk a bit more about that. And then local assistance. We are here, we're here in state. I'm on Kauai, Chess is on Oahu, and we're certainly willing to fly to Hawaii or Maui or Molokai if we need to help farmers. We do try to visit our farms a couple of times a year. So again, you are going to get that in-person opportunity for us and you to meet, talk about your farm, see what you're doing. We also use technology for those meetings as well. So utilizing, like we're doing right now, Zoom or other video to get on with folks. We've been doing our classes that way for many years pre-pandemic because we really wanted to make it accessible to folks across the state. So that is how we sort of address the workload issue. And again, you know, kind of bleeding into that, you can't do this alone. Everything that we're doing here is a team effort. We are acting as your farm's food safety team. So we're here to help you determine what practices can be best for your farm. We're here to help you write your farm plan, do your risk assessment, all of that. So many times smaller farms, you know, they're left out of this discussion because they don't have the resources to have a dedicated food safety manager. In this case, we're here to help you with that. The one thing we don't do is your records. So you're gonna have to do those yourself, but everything else we're here to give you a hand with. Another perception we talked about was that food safety is unnecessary. And I think strongly as we move into this sort of transition of our food system, most of the farmers that we work with recognize that some type of food safety certification or at least documentation is necessary to achieve more market access. And that's just a piece of the market. They want to see that you have food safety certification or some sort of documentation. And food safety outbreaks can happen anywhere. It really is not related to the size of your farm or the type of your operation. So it is necessary to make sure that those practices are in place. And again, we can help you easily document that. And then the last one, small farms don't cause food safety outbreaks. As I just said, I think a food safety outbreak could happen at a farm of any size. It's really about your practices, and that's not related to your farm size. Having that GAP certification is your insurance. It lets someone know you have done everything you can to look at your risks, identify what they are, figure out your mitigation measures, and put them in place. And on top of that, if you're certified, your procedures have been audited by a third party. So again, it's that extra assurance for your consumers, for your buyers, that you have done everything you can to address these issues and that that's an ongoing process. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the program as well and how this works. I'm going to hand it over to Chess for this one.
Okay, mic is on. Okay, so going over our program at a glance, starting off with prerequisites that we look for So there is some basic infrastructure that we look for farmers to have in place already, or with a active plan to get that infrastructure in place, which is first just a restroom. This can range from a portable lua to a traditional toilet situation, but the operation needs to have a workable restroom and a place for workers to wash hands in order to achieve certification. Next, that thing that we look for is just the personal commitment of the farmer, their ability to communicate with us effectively, and their desire to achieve certification. So collaboration and communication with our team is super important, as this is you're getting this certification by choice. So if there's no personal commitment, it can be kind of a drag. Moving into the cost of stuff. So like Lisa said, we're comparable to GroupGAP programs on the mainland. We do have a yearly member fee, which is $800 a year. And in addition to that, there are some other additional fees that you might take up once you start working with us, including the fee for the digital record keeping system, software subscription that we use for record keeping, and then any other additional things like water testing, or if you need to implement a new sanitizing SOP at your farm, there could be additional costs there. One good thing with costs as a member of our program is we do have some pretty good discounts for these types of additional services through participation in our group. Moving on to the more fun stuff, what you guys receive as part of the cohort. First is the technical training on harmonized GAP, the standard, and the digital record keeping application. So we kick off our program with weekly online classes that go through the harmonized GAP standard requirements and cover record keeping with Heavy Connect. As we're moving through these classes, Lisa and I are gathering information about your operation and writing your farm food safety plan. And while we're doing that, we're also working on customizing your record keeping system to best reflect your operation and your practices. Throughout this entire process, you're going to get in-person and online support from the beginning of the certification process all the way through an in-person USDA audit, if it comes to that. Some additional support that we offer, worker training is a big thing, and we offer worker protection standard training for pesticide application, record keeping and management training for your record keeping system, and then also just research help with tricky questions that might come up as we're working through your food safety plan. Lisa and I can take on the role of researching that and figuring it out while you can stick to farming. So as I said, we give support throughout the entire certification process and beyond. Well, the obvious goal of being in the program is getting certified. The larger goal of the program and hopefully certification is to increase market access for these farms and to grow and expand the farm business. So as we're working through the classes and writing your farm plan, working towards the USDA audit, Lisa and I are working on building buyer connections for our member farms. So that way you guys can put certification, once achieved, into good use. So now I'm super excited to introduce our speakers for today. We have two guest speakers. First, I'll introduce them and then we'll start off with Lauren. So Lauren Horning is the Director of Local Sourcing and Sustainability at FreshPoint, which is owned by Cisco. And then we have Scotty Wong, who is the owner and operator of Alaula Farm in Whitmore Village. So yeah, he's going to talk a little bit about his experience in our program. So I think Lauren has slides that she wants to share.
She's actually jumping on at the moment. So you want to start with Scott?
Okay, yeah, let's start with Scott.
Hi, aloha, everybody, and thanks for having me here. So I'm the CEO of our for-profit corporation, which is Ohana Hui Ventures, which manages farms, and one of them is Alaula Farms up in Whitmore Village in Wahiawa. So Ohana Hui Ventures, what we do is we actually go out and we find fallow lands. All of those lands with the Guinea grass, the California grass, that whether it's the state, Kamehameha schools, OHA, DHHL, it's all just sitting there going to waste for over 20, 30 years, or lands like where we're at now, which was once formerly Dole and pineapples, and they kind of just started shutting down operations. We really like to look for those lands because we're into regenerative farming. And I know it makes it harder for us because it's fallow lands and we try to stay away from the machines as much as possible, and try to incorporate livestock. But we see a lot of value in rehabilitating those lands. And what we have up in Whitmore, which was great, was lands that were formerly farmed by Dole for pineapple. So the infrastructure was pretty much in there. We just had to uncover it. And one of the things that we do is our main goal is to grow industrial hemp, to phytoremediate the soils and regenerate it to bring it back to the health that it needs to be at. But then we also said, hey, we have so much land here, it's 430 acres, that we have to incorporate growing food. That was the mission of the state Department of Ag, was growing food for Hawaii. So we have an army of farmers that partner with us. Polynesian farmers, whether it's Hawaiian, we have some Tongan farmers coming on growing the polyfoods. But we also have Chinese farmers that have been farming for several years up in the Wahiawa area. But none of these farmers have ever really gone, or some of them haven't even heard of food safety certification. That was one of the things that we stressed on our land, is that we're going to go for the GAP food safety certification, and everyone's going to get in line. And we're also doing organic, so no chemicals, so it made it harder on the farmers. But being with North Shore EVP, with Lisa and Chess, it's kind of like paint by the numbers, which was really great. And it made it a lot easier because there's a lot of things that our farmers, they can farm. Like the Chinese farmers can put 5 acres of food in the ground in 7 days, not a problem. But are we doing it correctly? Do we have everything set up properly for food safety? Are we harvesting correctly? Because a lot of the Chinese farmers is direct to Chinatown, Palama Supermarket. They have the way to clean it, but is the water being tested? Is all of these things in line with where the future is going to be, which is, everyone's going to have the certification. So with North Shore EVP, with Lisa, there's a checklist that we go through, especially with us with fallow lands, is we had to put in a new water line. We had like a 5/8 inch pipe. I think that's the one that like comes out of your house spigot, for the farm. So we upgraded it to a 2-inch pipe. We had to put in backflow preventers, and we finally got it running. And that was the big thing in the last 2 weeks, was telling Lisa, well, we finally got water coming. And the good thing, it's municipal water. So, once you guys go through the certification, you're going to understand that having city water is great rather than irrigation ditch water, because of the testing. And the other things too, what we enjoy about the North Shore EVP is the phone apps, because we're bringing on a lot of young farmers and they're always on their phone. So I tell the two that I have, this is your job. You're going to be on your phone all day and you're going to do all the inspections, And I said, even set your alarm, because that's what I was having to do, was set my alarm to remind me to do all the inspections and plug it in. So I got 2 young farm managers that are going around, and that's all they do is they just go check on everybody. And they love it because they don't have to go and dig in the dirt and bend over all day and harvest. So that's the way we're getting the new young farmers in the business. The other thing that is really great about North Shore EVP is that it's a group GAP. I really loved our day at the farm at Kuilima, meeting other farmers and seeing with my own eyes what they're doing, what their operation is. I love to go see other farmers and see what's happening, if we can do more of those, which is great. And also sharing the knowledge on where everybody's getting their supplies, what's the great deals. And that's the thing with North Shore EVP is that, you know, we've looked at other ways of getting the GAP certification, and it's not cheap. You hire a lot of private people, but they'll charge you. But with the group GAP, we all go together and we learn together. And you know, I'm so far having a great experience. And the only biggest battle that I have is battling guinea grass on the farm, you know. But other than that, I think we can figure it out. And North Shore EVP has been great for us farmers, especially with new land, new farms coming up and doing it right the first time, rather than doing it like you think you know what you're doing, then you find out you did it backwards. Do it all over again, you know. So that's what's great about Chess and Lisa walking us. And even there's times when, you know, earlier we were forgetting to do a lot of the safety checks because sometimes we don't go to the farm for a week. There's nothing to do. And then they go, hey, how's your, you know, your checklist? We're looking at your thing. What's going on? You know, oh yeah, we haven't been on the farm for a week. You know, nobody's been up there, but now we're going back. You know? So anyway, I think that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, I can answer some of them.
Thanks, Scotty. That was awesome. And we have Lauren on the call now, and I think you have some slides to share too.
Yes, if that's possible. If not, no worries. Happy to just chat through.
Enter capabilities already.
Yeah, you should be able to. Try see if you can share screen, Lauren.
Let's see. So
Or
stop
maybe
sharing.
I'll stop sharing so that way.
Perfect. Yep, that's great. And we'll do this. Thanks for bearing with me as well. I had no idea Hawaii doesn't go off of daylight savings time. So we're an hour back and it's still stuck in my calendar as 6 p.m., but it's actually 5:30 p.m. here. So my apologies, everyone. I had no idea. All right, so we should be able. Chess, Lisa, can you see that okay? I'm not going to go into full screen mode just because it's probably easier. Does that come up all right?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool beans. So hello, everyone. My name's Lauren. I work with FreshPoint, working to bring in more local farmers so we can source less from traditional massive scale farmers out of California and more so from local farmers that we can then crop plan those crops with. So we don't need to rely on California, as well as build up local supply chain systems for folks who really truly want to support and buy more local product. So I was out in Hawaii at the end of September and was at the local farmers conference with Lisa and Chess and learned an enormous amount about North Shore EVP. And we're really looking forward to working more with them as hopefully farmers get GAP certified and are interested in going wholesale. We'd really love to be a potential customer to be able to pull the product then through the supply chain, distribute out, and be a resource if folks have questions on pack sizes, how to case sizes, specs. That's really our goal, is to be an informative source that we can make the process as transparent as possible. So what you see in front of you, at least right now, is kind of a rundown on what we work with on the farm to table side. So yes, small and mid-sized farms is really the goal. So at this point, most agriculture, that average size of farms is expanding year over year. And so a lot of large scale farms are 3,000 plus acres. And our goal is to really find the smaller and mid-sized farms to help support them and allow them to have more sustainable futures and better markets. And sometimes that looks different for every farmer. I'd say for us, it's really important that as a farmer, you have diversified outlets for sales. I wouldn't say, we don't need exclusivity. You don't need to only sell to FreshPoint. The goal is, how can you be the most successful, sustainable farmer? So if that for you means selling to a CSA, selling into farmers markets, selling to a couple of distributors, that's great. If it means picking and choosing between those, that's fine too. But I would say that the most successful farmers we've worked with are ones that don't have just a single distributor as their only customer. And that's what I would suggest as well. I'd love to be a customer if you're interested in wholesale, but definitely think through diversifying your outlets, because at the end of the day, you'll make more money as a farmer selling direct to consumer. And there is a growing market in Hawaii for folks who are interested in just wanting local product. So that's great. I'd say there are pieces to work through on the wholesale side. Yes, getting a group GAP audit costs money. Yes, getting packaging costs money as well. We can move both volume if that's an interest, or specialty products if you'd like to sell just one case or two cases of lilikoi. Great. We would love to take that because it's a specialty crop and we can pay more for that. And so really our goal is to meet you where you're at, whatever you're producing, whatever you're interested in growing, we can sit down and chat through that. We've got two fantastic buyers that are working with local farmers pretty intensely right now, and we would work through what's the crop plan on those specific items. Outside of working directly with on the customer side, this is what they're starting to see. So they look to us as an aggregation site for farms, kind of like a food hub in a way. Food hubs tend to be marketed mostly towards local farm product only. We have that capacity, but then we're still bringing in product from California as well. So we see those both sides, which is why I'd say more so an aggregation center rather than a food hub. Shelf life, quality, those are all pieces that customers look and respect and value out of local product. And the consistency is really key. We do see inbound issues coming from California on product, whether it's brought in off of boats or whether it's flown in. And as much as we can get in Hawaii, that's really the goal. We can then go back to chefs and help them with the marketing side. So we have a website called loco.freshpoint.com. This is just a snapshot of the Carolinas, which is we have two warehouses in the Carolinas, but these are all mostly small and mid-sized farms that we work with, that a chef could visit this site, click on a farm, and then it pops up a farm bio, which looks like this. So it shares the story of the farm, a picture, and this is an 8.5 by 11. So a chef could print this out, put it on top of a salad bar. They could share it at a dinner if they say it's a university and they're having a special dinner for students that focuses on farm to table. So this is a great way to share the story of the farm and to really carry that through, because sometimes that voice can be lost in the supply chain. And I think farmers are very proud of what they're growing, and we want to be able to support and share that. So that's the thinking behind these farm bios. The other aspect is that we can offer local reporting for chefs. So if they come to us and say, how much local produce did I buy last year? We can run a report that shows the farms that we bought from, the cases that were purchased, and then chefs are able to see year over year how they're growing, but then also see where they might not have been doing so well. So we can dive in and say, okay, well, you could have been buying local watercress that we stock, so maybe let's look at some other opportunities. Is there a salad that can incorporate that? Is there a special that you can put on for a certain month that features specific local products that are available? Looking at what it takes to sell to us, the GAP audit is the biggest obstacle to entry. So we accept any level of GAP, group GAP, harmonized GAP, USDA global or USDA GAP we can look at. So really any level of GAP, we're good to go. But with North Shore EVP doing such an incredible job with group GAP, I'd say that's really the best option. It's a cheaper option. It gives you more, just a better value opportunity to get a return for putting in the investment for a GAP audit. Outside of that, we accept any level of insurance. So you could come to us with farmer's comprehensive liability, with a general liability, it doesn't matter. We accept any level of insurance, and then we supplement that up to a 2 million, 4 million general liability policy. So that allows us to sell products into large customer chains, Hilton, Airmark, Compass, Sodexo, any large customer group. that's what they ask us for our vendors. So that's why we supplement for local farmers so they don't have to worry about those premiums. And then the new vendor paperwork is pretty basic. Mostly it's where do you want your check sent? And would you accept direct deposit so that it can just show up in a bank account? And then the last 4 that you see are more so just requests. If it's possible to get an annual production calendar to know when you might be harvesting crops, that's great. If we can get weekly communications on how your harvests are looking, if a rainstorm came through and you lost a crop of greens, if you have a bumper crop and there's a lot of extra, all that is really good feedback for us. So we can help to work with you in maximizing your harvest. We pay by invoice. So sending us an invoice is pretty key. It can be a low-tech invoice. I would say this isn't the best case scenario, but we've had farmers write invoices on napkins where they just forgot to write an invoice and they handed us a napkin when they got to the warehouse. Some farmers are more high tech and they'll use an app where it's just a signature and then they email it to us. And then some will carry an invoice booklet with them, write an invoice, and then that's what we use. So very flexible on that. And then the farm name on the case, if that's possible, that'd be great. It always helps chefs know and have name recognition of the farms they'd like to support. But that doesn't mean it needs to be printed on the case. You can handwrite it. It can be a label maker where you just put a sticker on the box. And again, that's optional. It's only just a suggestion to help chefs get to know your farm better and your quality and the products that you stand by. So all of that said, we would love to work with more farmers. That's really our big push. And if you have questions, here's some contact information. Our food safety manager is Amanda, and I think she might be on this call. And then Winnie, who's one of our local buyers who's fantastic. I think she's also on this call. So we've got a big supportive team that's ready to chat with folks if anyone is interested or in the future would like to chat more about selling into wholesale distribution.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren and Scotty. I am gonna start sharing my screen again. Also, I realized there might have been some background noise previously. I hope that's better now. I turned off my fan. So just going over some next steps in our application process for folks interested in applying. Our application period opens today and it will run through January 13th. The applications are available on our website. If you can see this screen too. So once you go to our website, if you just scroll down, you'll see the upcoming events. Click more info. And you'll be able to download the application right here. It's a fillable PDF and you can just email that back to us, either to info@nsevp.org or to Lisa and I's email. So we will select our participants in early 2023, and then programming will begin in late February. If we do receive an application from you, Lisa or I will try to come out to your farm just to talk with you a bit, see kind of your basic farm setup, infrastructure, crops, just to get kind of a better idea if it's the right fit for both of us to join the program. If we can't make it out to your site in person for whatever reason, we would try to set up a FaceTime or a Zoom call to do pretty much the same thing. So that's what the next steps and timeline kind of look like. And now we have some time for a Q&A. So if you want to just unmute yourself, you can ask a question or throw it into the chat as well, either way.
I'm sure we didn't cover everything, but while you guys are thinking of questions, I'm gonna just explain a little bit more in detail how the GroupGAP program works. This is a program where we take on farms currently about once a year, and everyone in the program that's accepted into the program will work through the programming at the same time. We do 9 to 10 classes, and they are by Zoom. So we will pick a date. Usually it's a weekday during the day, usually in the morning, and we do our class time by video. So we'll roll through that. We go through the Harmonized GAP standard, what it requires, what your record keeping is going to look like, and all of the documentation that the audit requires. Once we go through those initial classes, we will assign some homework in there, and that's just really data gathering. We're trying to get the initial bit of information that we need to develop your farm food safety plans. Once that's done, we will begin to work with you individually. So we will be visiting your farm, we'll be getting some information specific to your operation, and that will, again, be putting that information into your farm plan, doing a risk assessment with you, etc. Once you take the course with us, that's the only time you have to take it, but you do want to make sure that you're continuing to do employee training. If you have staff at your farm, that's going to be a big component of the class. So you may want to have 1 or 2 people from your staff, if you have a bunch, sit in on it. However, we do record our trainings, so that is available to you and you can have your folks watch that. So everyone on your team is aware of what's being covered. And then once we get you kind of to the point of having a farm food safety plan that's pretty well developed, at that point as well, Chess will have been working with everybody to get them set up on Heavy Connect, which is the digital record keeping app that we use. And we'll be tracking your records. We can see the records that you're keeping. And so if you're not having any success with that, you'll get a call from us and we'll try to troubleshoot that and help you out with it. About midsummer is when we will shoot to do everyone's first internal audit. And that is a really good opportunity to kind of see where you are, how you've been keeping your records, how you've been doing with implementing your procedures. That internal audit is a formal audit. And so that will be done by Chess or myself, and that will be turned into USDA. If you pass that audit on the first shot, you're going to be considered certified through the group. That will mean that your audit report will go to Fresh Systems. They will review it. It will also go on to USDA eventually, but you would be considered certified if you passed at that point. Most of the time, folks don't pass on the first try. They usually have a couple corrective actions to make, and that's not a big deal. We will work with you to help you understand what those are and what we need to do to fix them. And then we will set up a follow-up audit with you to address those once you've fixed those compliance issues. As we move towards the fall, we're really hoping at that point that the farm food safety plan is in pretty good shape. It's done. Every other piece of documentation has been done, and you are just keeping records on the regular. And then we are preparing for the third-party audit. And that means an audit by USDA. What happens in GroupGAP is that every single farm in the group will receive an internal audit, as Chess said, twice a year. One of those is called an internal audit. The other is essentially called an unannounced audit. And that just means that we give you very little time to prepare. We're going to look at your records. And so that one's just a shorter window before we let you know we're going to do it. But the third party audit is really what sets GroupGAP apart from regular GAP to a single farm. In GroupGAP, because every farm gets that internal audit, USDA will take a look at all of those audit reports. They will then decide which of the farms in that group they're going to visit that year. The ultimate goal is that over the couple of years, they're going to get through every single farm in the program. They're going to see everybody, but they're going to start off with just a subset number. And that is the square root of the total number in the group. So that was why it was important for us to merge with Fresh Systems. If our group is 16 farms across the state, 4 of those farms are going to get audited. If, for example, our group is 64 farms across Hawaii and the rest of the continental US, then we have maybe only a fraction of that. If 8 farms out of our entire group are going to get audited, it's likely that in Hawaii, it's only going to be about 2 or 3 of them. And that helps to keep costs down. and helps us move forward too as a group. So everyone's learning together. We're getting some information from folks on the mainland, how they're doing things. And that's what made it attractive, GroupGAP attractive to us here, because we recognize that for small and medium-sized farmers, particularly, cost is an issue, and audits can certainly be costly. So the way that this works for us is that we do assess a fee for each farm in the group once a year. And that fee, we hold all of that in a kitty and we pay for those audits out of that. So everyone is paying into it, and then we pay the audit costs for the third-party audit out of those. You don't pay anything extra for your internal audits. That's a service that we provide through the program, as well as the worker protection standard training. So it's really kind of a all-inclusive. The only additional costs you may have are related to water sampling, if that is necessary for your farm, and any additional practices that you might have to include, or sanitizers or things like that that you might have to purchase. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there so you get a basic sense of how this program works. Once you get your certification, after that third-party audit, every farm in the group is going to be certified if they have passed their audits, and the whole group gets their certification. If you have a farm in the group that doesn't pass an audit, hasn't done their corrective actions, that's okay. That farm doesn't receive their certification at that time. They make their corrective actions, that gets reviewed, and then they will receive their certification later. It does not affect the rest of the farms in the group though. So there's no holding anybody back if we have a farm that doesn't meet the compliance measures. Still no questions. We couldn't have done that good of a job. Really quickly, let me ask, could you guys see that first poll? Were you able to see it, anybody? Yes, okay. I'm gonna throw up the second one then. And this one is really sort of a post event one. And we're really just trying to see, you know, how well did we do? What information can you give us on other things that you would want to learn about? So that's up now. Before we head out, if you guys could fill that out, that would be great. I can't believe you guys don't have any questions. Is this for real? Oh, here's a good one. Can a hui of farmers combine to form an application farm? Ooh, that's a kind of a tough one. We would have to talk a little bit more, I think, in depth about that. Basically, in that situation, every farm in the group, we're going to have to look at all of their practices, and we're going to have to do assessments on everybody. So thinking of a small, what is this, small household beekeepers. Are you guys growing fruits and vegetables? Yes, okay. Honey is a specialty crop, okay. I don't know that we can certify honey under GroupGAP for fruits, and it's usually for fruits and veggies. So we would have to talk more in depth, probably offline, about what you guys are growing, the crops that you're growing, maybe to support the bees and how that could work. Any other questions? Okay, well, I guess if there aren't any, our team, here you go. This is it, all three of us. We are available if you have any questions later on, anything that comes to mind a little bit later. You can give us a call or an email or a text. Chess is available on Oahu. I am available on Kauai. And of course, we're available to answer questions anytime. And then Kevin, who's actually on with us today too, is our president. So we really appreciate your time today, and we appreciate your feedback on the polls as well. We're really excited to kick off. This will be our 7th cohort in GroupGAP here in Hawaii. So we're really excited to kick this off and hope that some of you guys will apply. I wanted to thank specifically Lauren and Scotty for sharing a little talk story there. And Lauren introduced the buyers who are here locally, Amanda and Winnie. So know those guys' names. If you have any questions, want to reach out to them, we can put you in touch. Hopefully we've been helpful in getting you a little bit more information about GroupGAP and how it works. If you do, again, have questions, reach out to us later on for sure. Otherwise, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we will go ahead and end this and wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, Will. Anything else? All right, well, aloha, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.